Gentlemen, welcome back. Great to be speaking with you. Can we all unanimously agree on one thing? We'll start with you, T-Mac. The Atlanta Hawks are not the Washington Wizards.
No, they have a lot of talent for sure, and shooting is king, right? I mean, speed in sports is paramount, but in basketball, those that can shoot can really play. And boy, they showed that yesterday, and they are a formidable opponent. And had we not known that, we definitely know it after game one, to be sure.
Oh, no question. Their shooting yesterday was spectacular, and we'll get into this more, I'm sure. But I think anybody's a really good shooter in this NBA when you don't have a hand in your face. And the Sixers' defense on Trae Young allowed others to be open a little bit too much for my liking.
To that point, I think for anyone who thought that the Hawks were just about Trae Young, found out real quick, they have some great pieces surrounding him and flushing out the rest of the roster. Wouldn't you say, Bob?
They do. They do. And he's got a really good thing going when he dribble drives and hits Clint Capella with the little lob passes. He's a great floater. So once he gets into the lane, he has great choices. It's either a layup, a floater, or an alley-oop for a dunk. So you want to try to take that away. And when the Sixers did, he found other players that were able to hit shots yesterday. And a lot of them, as I said, were just too wide open for my liking. And Bogdanovich, of course, hits the big one towards the end when he did have a hand in his face. So the Sixers, in my mind, have to get on those secondary players a little bit better than they did on Sunday.
And that's something that Coach Rivers talked about after the game, that they didn't rotate to those guys well. And to me, that's like a fixable error. You got to do it. You got to execute. It's one thing to talk about it and know what the issue is, but you got to carry it out and make sure you get that done. But it does sound something that you can show the guys. They're going to have a video session as we speak later today, and they always go over tape and look at those things and have more urgency. But certainly even Solomon Hill hit 2 threes. He lived in the corner. Bogdanovich, not just the big shot that spelled the difference and created the space for them to finish out the game with the win, Atlanta. But, man, the guy had like 4 threes in the first half, and he's been doing it forever. What you understand is this guy played in Europe. I was in the gym earlier today with former Villanova standout Reggie Redding, who played in Turkey. And at one point, Bogdanovich made a game-winning shot right over him. So he's been playing that's a world-class skill when you can shoot the ball, and clearly a coveted player, right? Milwaukee tried to get him, and now Atlanta's got him. He didn't play against the Sixers in those 2 games in late March. So that they spread the floor. And to Bob's point, with Young getting into the lane, as I've said, he puts you in a bind where if you don't come out, he's shooting a 12-foot floater. If you do, he's lobbing it to Capella or making that second pass. Somebody else will get it to a guy who's spaced out beyond the perimeter. So, look, they're young, they're confident, they've got talent, and they're trying to jump the line, right? There's a pecking order in the NBA. We feel like the Sixers are in position to make that next step, but not to their liking. They're not, they want to move on. And like I said, they're a young team that nobody expected. Certainly, back in January, nobody expected this team to do this, but they're for real, and they're going to be a tough out. That's for sure. Not that it's undoable by any stretch. I think the Sixers, the fact that they did fight back shows that they can come back, and they've done that a number of times in multiple games, particularly at home, but a little too big of a hole, down 26 in the first half in order to come back and win that first game.
I want to get into Trae Young a little bit more, some of the pieces that are part of the Hawks roster and also the second half by the 76ers. But I did want to get your guys' reaction to what happened before the ball even tipped. Joel Embiid was made available to play, and he started. Bob, did that surprise you that we saw him out there?
No, not really. I mean, I had done, for purposes of our show, I had gotten in touch with some trainers throughout sports, some medical people, none to do with the Sixers, just to kind of find out more about the injury. And almost to a person, it's a manageable thing. If he can tolerate the pain, the swelling, and all that injury embodies, then he should be okay to go. As you guys know, the telltale thing will be today. How did he playing 38 minutes yesterday? How did the knee respond? What's the soreness like today? What's your, I know they have a schedule moving forward. How can he meet that today? So today will be very important as to what we see tomorrow from Joel Embiid. But I expected him to be a go yesterday, and I'm glad he was.
T-Mac, and he talked very matter-of-factly about it after the game. He essentially was like, it's the playoffs. I'm going to be out there unless I can't be. And you certainly admire that mindset. And it was funny because based on what you were reporting, T-Mac, on the air when we talked before the game, just how Joe wrapped up his pregame warm-up routine. I mean, that made it sound like once you saw and heard about what he was doing pregame and you saw some of the video clips coming through on your timeline on Twitter, it started to give you the vibe and impression, reading the tea leaves, that this was going to be more and more likely. So not only did he play, he played great.
He really did. I mean, as Bob said, 38 minutes, 39 minutes, played his heart out, played with fight, played with grit, literally laid it out on the line with that foul on Collins, which, it's one play, but in the game you lose by 4. And look, he's never in that clear path scenario. But that's actually, if you were to go back, you probably wish he didn't do that. He maybe just let him go in, because in the end they got 4 points with Collins getting 2 free throws and they scored on the ensuing possession. But again, like Coach Rivers didn't even want him to have to be in that scenario. That was like college type trapping and pressing in the backcourt. I mean, and look how the Sixers scored in those late stages, where Ben misses a free throw, Joe gets it, scores, and gets a foul shot. And then they stole it and Ben got an easy dunk. I mean, that was under the heading of miraculous comeback, but it just fell short. But Embiid was every bit as good as anybody can imagine him playing in that scenario. You talk about load management. He had load management in that game, and he played like a leader. You show it through your actions and through playing under duress. And to Bob's point, it'll be managed. And what's that crappy rapper from days gone by? Ice, Ice Baby. Like Joe is going to have stem. He's going to have ice. Like he is really going to be
Mac with a little vanilla ice.
He's going to be swaddled in ice for the rest of this time. Yeah.
Tremendous. Listen, that's going to be part of the billing now for Vanilla Ice. You know what? Ice, baby. I dig it.
He's no meat, but he,
Sounds like a bell ringer of the future. Vanilla Ice.
That was another amazing part of it. Like the theater of Joe. I know the Sixers didn't win, and in hindsight, some people might say, well, don't have the theatrics. He was ready, though. He was ready, and I wonder now what Atlanta's going to try and do moving forward with him. I mean, 39 points in 38 minutes, pretty insane. Bob, do you think there's any type of blueprint that the Hawks might be working with as far as their coverage with him? Do you think they were feeling some things out in game 1 just to see how Joel Embiid-esque he could be?
I thought he did a great job Sunday of doing what he's been doing all year, and that was seeing where the double teams were coming from and seeing what was happening. The catch, turn, and look that Doc Rivers taught him at the beginning of this season to see exactly what's coming, I think is absolutely special by Joel Embiid this year. And look, Clint Capella can't cover him one-on-one. Few people in this league can. But when he wanted to take him, when he wanted to bully him, beat him off the dribble, beat him with a jump shot, Joel Embiid did whatever he wanted. So what do you do now if you're Nate McMillan? I don't know. You have the luxury of being up 1-0. It could be a case of saying, well, let Joel Embiid have his, and we're up 1-0. We can see what happens. You can go that way. You can go with the double and triple teams because Sixers didn't shoot the ball very well. They have the luxury of being up 1-0. Maybe they don't have to do anything. But if the series is going to continue on and Embiid's going to dominate, Nate McMillan's going to have to do something, and it's probably going to be in the form of double teams.
Something that T-Mac and I talk about on the air a lot is, Bob, the best thing about the NBA is the stars really shine through. And obviously this time of year, you're seeing some incredible star player performances, those who aren't hurt or dinged up, whether it's Luka and Kawhi going at it back-to-back in that series that went to 7 games between the Clippers and the Mavericks. And in game 1 between the 76ers and Hawks, if you're a fan of the game, and I love listening to Hubie Brown for a lot of reasons. I don't know how other people feel about him, but to me, I get a kick out of when he's like, there you go. Like, you don't ever hear announcers sound like they're rooting or have a rooting interest in a game. And he's not rooting for a team or a player. He's just rooting for the game being played the right way. He's like, yeah, there you go. That's nice. Okay. Like those sorts of things you hear from Hubie. He was doing that throughout the game on Sunday. But it's great when star players, I think, are at their best. I mean, certainly if you follow the Sixers, you're a fan of the Sixers, you want them to take away Trae Young. But seeing a game like that where Joel Embiid was outstanding, Trae Young outstanding. You want that as a fan of the game this time of year.
Sure, and that's where the chess match starts, right? So you have the stars. Now what do the coaches do to take it away? I was a little confused that Doc Rivers didn't look to take away Trae Young a little bit more yesterday in an earlier fashion. They came out in the second half and put Ben Simmons on him, and then they started to jump the high pick and rolls later on, which I thought was good. Look, Trae Young's 6 feet tall. I would look to smother him as much as you could. He got to do too much of what he does. That makes him that star that you're talking about, Bri. He got to do too much of that too easily in the first half, in my opinion. And I thought they waited just a little too long to take away what he does best. Joel Embiid, on the other hand, did do what he does and continued to do it throughout the game. Now the chess match, like you said, Brian, the chess match now starts. What does Nate McMillan do to try to take away Joel Embiid? Because I think we know what Doc Rivers has to try to do to take away Trae Young.
Couple things regarding Joe. I think one of the adjustments might be they come with a bigger guy, but that would be Collins, like leaving Tobias, who's typically lifted out on the opposite side of the floor. They came with Bogdanovich early on, and he was hesitant. Like he would come underneath the belly of the lane and not go all the way. I'm like, do you not got the game plan? Are you coming or are you not? And then again, like nobody can guard Joel. Even Capella, who's very athletic, obviously good off the ball shot blocker, extraordinary rebounder, dunker, putback guy, but not a one-on-one defender straight up with Joe, not even close. So that was a key thing, and that's going to remain a factor in the series. Regarding Hubie, unbelievable in his 80s. And like, yeah. I wanted to, he was right by where we were broadcasting from, and I wanted to bow down and genuflect. And Bob, you were there at Stockton when we had training camp there the one year. And Hubie came down with one of his friends. He drove down from North Jersey and watched practice. And then after practice, like he was going over something with one of our players, maybe actually a coach. And everybody in the gym swarmed over there like a clinic is breaking out and Hubie Brown is teaching basketball. That's how good he is. And to your point, Brian, he appreciates the game. And you watch, like, as you say, you watch on Twitter, and everybody was weighing in about Hubie and his ability. So that is, he's just like our sport. You can always learn. And if you think you can't, like, come on, you're kidding yourself. And you can continually grow in your knowledge of the game. And a guy like that puts it on a platter, especially for a national television audience where everybody's not steeped in the game like basketball lifers. So that was excellent. And then Trae Young. Like, Bob, I think you're making a legitimate point, and you're probably not the only guy that is stipulating that. They did put Ben on him at the beginning of the third quarter. What happened? Boom, he got a foul. So to me, part of the knowledge of this is how he plays. He's hooking. He's crafty. I mean, on the Thibault review, he fouled Matisse twice. Not Matisse fouled. He banged into him, and then he hits him with the elbow. Those are both fouls on Trae Young. Didn't get reversed. But I thought it certainly could have been a legitimate challenge by the Sixers. Coach talked about defending with verticality, like made him shoot over the lane. And the problem is with Trae Young, okay, I'll just back up to 29 feet. He would have gone to FDR Park, but there was a flower show there, so he opted to go to the Patterson subway station instead. But he can shoot the ball from range. And again, and Bob, you had basketball players. You're a fine player yourself, the Catholic, go Irish. But what his daddy taught him is, like we all taught our kids, like, no, shoot with the right form. His dad said, great, you got the form, get back, shoot the bombs. And look what happened. He turned into Trae Young.
Yeah.
That's the thing where I know that people want to maybe look at if they're trying to pick him apart and say, well, he shoots only this percentage from three, but he's not going to stop shooting, and he can hit from anywhere, which is what makes him so dangerous. And if he is able to pull one of those insanely deep shots out of his bag like he did at different points in the first quarter, in the first half, those can be backbreaking at times. And you're just like, well, what else can we do to him? But I would agree. I mean, obviously, it looked like things were different with him as far as his success with how the Sixers approached him defensively in the second half. But yet he still was able to slither in, make two big baskets back-to-back midway through the fourth quarter, which in a game that close, he still was able to make some impact plays down the stretch. So to me, he's really exciting. He seems extremely fearless. I just have a lot of respect for him. I do. I think that if no one was watching the New York Knicks series, they certainly see what he's all about now.
I was just going to say, regarding Trae Young and regarding Joel and regarding the NBA playoffs, and I made this point earlier here at home, and that is, like, all postseason play is special, right? I mean, you can go on with the NFL and baseball, and obviously hockey playoffs are awesome. but it's an incredible formula, right? And as you say, these guys are stars. The talent is extraordinary, right? With Brooklyn and Kevin Durant. And the way it goes, like something's going to shake out. Something's going to be revealed. Like in the Brooklyn-Milwaukee series, like you're like, boy, these teams are so evenly matched. Well, it turns out Brooklyn's way better, at least in the first game, even without one of their best players. In the Sixers series, our turnovers are going to be a problem. Something gets revealed, and we learn something through every game. And that's why the series, the entire playoffs, look around the league with the Luka versus the Clippers. And it's unbelievable. It's a tableau of excitement and storylines and drama. It's an incredible package of basketball at this time of the year. And it's special to be a part of it. And now the Sixers need to hold serve. I mean, they lost the home court advantage, and now it's they got to get it back. Get back, tie the series, go down there, steal a game, and take it from there.
Yeah, and you're right, Brian. It's Trae Young is becoming, I said this on air this morning, Trae Young is becoming one of my favorite players to watch in the NBA. He's that exciting. And back in the day when we were all together on the road, I loved watching Russell Westbrook live when he was back in Oklahoma City, just the way he played. Steve Nash, just different guys in the league. Your eye goes to them. You say, wow, that's fun to watch. Trae Young is that. And it's his passing ability, it's his shooting ability, it's his creativity off the dribble. There's just so much about him that I really like. I do think, though, his strengths on offense play into the Sixers' strengths defensively also, and that's perimeter defense and the length that they have and enveloping him. They have to do a better job of just covering him. And I don't mean, covered, but I mean envelop him and don't let him get to where he wants to be as easily as he did on Sunday.
Am I off base on this? I was trying to think of it. I'm sure other people have thrown this out there. That to me, Trae seems like he could be the spawn of if Iverson and Curry had a love child, Steph Curry, that is. Am I totally off there?
You're psychic or psycho, but yes,
right.
You're right. You're right.
The love child thing threw me off a little bit. But no, like what you're saying is the evolution of the game, right? Like, again, and I made this point and I've talked about it with Coach Rivers, who played point guard in the NBA. But the handle has been around forever, right? Guys with incredible dribbling ability. You got to Pete Maravich and even in this day, Kuzi or Tiny Archibald or on and on and on, right? Isaiah Thomas. But it's the way they do it now with the step back, the gather, the depth. Nobody's been shooting from range like this other than World B. Free back in the day, but you wouldn't think of him as having an incredible handle. So that AI, he had the shiftiness or whatever. Like for a young player looking at Trae Young, as you say, he's 6 feet, 6'1", 185. Yeah. But it's the decision-making, the hand-eye coordination, the fast twitch fibers, the whole package. And then getting back into the game and the analysis, Bob's talking about swarming him, and Ben tried to do it and spoke post-game about, being fit, if the refs will let me be 6'10". Well, he's so fast and squirmy and wiggly off the dribble that, you try to get into him. First of all, you can't hand check him at all. You touch him out beyond the foul line, you're getting a foul. I think that's part of what the Sixers, as I mentioned, were concerned with. I think you're right. They might have to run two at him, make him give up the ball. He will get it back. That's the other thing when you mentioned Curry with the ball movement and all that and off the ball action. He's the Energizer Bunny. He keeps moving when three guys in the gym are still guarding him, and he still gets 40. That's what these players today do, and that's something that young players can learn from as well. But to the point about Simmons trying to be physical with him, you reach out to get physical with him, and there he's by you, and now he's got you. And that's the other thing that today's players do, right? Ish Smith, all these guys, they get you on their hip, they get you inside, and now you're behind them. One of the fundamental tenets of basketball is to stay between the man with the ball and the basket, and that's where he's got you in a bind.
Yeah, and it's another thing. Like we had a lot of people saying to us today, can't they just get their hands up and make Trae Young shoot over? Well, Trae Young, like you said, Tom, Trae Young is so good with the basketball. As someone that has a ball, once I see somebody stand up straight, I got you. And so as much as you want to Ben Simmons at 6'10" to stand up straight and get his hands up, once Trae Young sees him going up straight and keeps his dribble, forget it. He's by you. You have to stay down on him to try to negate his quickness. And then once you rise to your feet, once you start to go up, forget it. He's already past you. So it's almost impossible to just vertically get up as easily as we would want it to happen. He's that good.
Right. One other fundamental, this is a Billy Lang. And I'm sure it's been said before, but we all think about basketball played above the rim. no doubt. Pretty hard to stop alley-oops, right? But what Bob's talking about, you get lifted out of your stance, the axiom that Coach Lang would talk about, and that is lowest man wins. Basketball is about balance and leverage. And the second that you lift out, I mean, these guys can do it with an eyebrow fake. They got you. And that's what he does. He gets you off balance, off center, and then he's weaving. And like I said, and then I thought to that point, their decision-making was Warriors-esque when they put Draymond Green on the elbow, and he's got KD, he's got Steph, he's got Clay. They were moving the ball around like that when it's like an 8-armed octopus. How do you stop them? And that's where they put the Sixers in that situation early in that game.
All great points, guys. Yeah, to me, one of the things that concerned me the most in the first 6 minutes of the game, 8 minutes of the game, wasn't anything with the scoring of Trae Young. It's that he had 5 assists in 8 minutes. And I'm like, uh-oh, he hasn't even gotten started scoring the ball yet. He's just slicing, dicing, getting that ball movement. They're a team that can pass well. They really were able to move it pretty well, and it definitely caught the Sixers on their heels early. I think looking ahead to game 2, listen, is it possible that Atlanta shoots 23s in a game again? Perhaps. Could the Sixers only hit 10 threes in a game again? Perhaps. Free throws made, turnovers for the Sixers. They sound like very easy things to circle on a box score, but to me, those are the 2 areas that you got to tighten up going into game 2.
Agree. And the turnovers fascinated me. That looked like a young 4th-seeded team playing a 1st-seeded team. That's what the Sixers looked like in that first quarter yesterday. Offensive fouls, lazy giveaways, Ben Simmons with a power dribble inside that he doesn't pick up and it goes over his head. It was confusing to me the way they played in the first half. That wasn't a Sixers team that I had seen before this year, and even carried into the third quarter. It was kind of mind-boggling what was going on with that team yesterday. The goodness that Tom pointed out earlier, they did finish strong, and I think that's the Sixers team we're going to see for the rest of the series. I think they win this series. I think they win tomorrow night also. But they have to be fundamentally sound, and it can't be look, you have to scheme if you're Doc Rivers now. Yesterday, to me, it seemed like, at least for the first half, all right, guys, you're the better team. Go out there and play. And before you know it, you're down 26 and 20 at the half. And then you made adjustments. I hope tomorrow night they go into the game with the adjustments in hand, what they're going to do with Trae Young, and offensively have a little bit of a better scheme. But they scored 124 points, so offensively they weren't that bad.
Which is exactly in line with what they averaged in the first 5 games of playoffs against the Wizards, 125 points. Relative to the turnovers, that has been, and I've talked about this before, and I don't want to be the downer guy, but that has been the Sixers' issue at times in the playoffs, where not only, because the points off of, it ended up being maybe -4, but again, you lost the game by 4, but you're losing all those possessions. At one point, they had 8 more possessions. Just real quickly, Brian, you mentioned Trae Young with the assists. Of his 5 assists, like 3 of them were for threes. So he had accounted for, he had only made 2 baskets at the beginning, but he had accounted for the first 14 points of the game. So, Bob, you got the U.S. Open hat on. You're talking about falling behind by 20 points at intermission. What happens is when you play golf, oh, man, I'm pressing here. Well, squeezing the club doesn't make it go farther, all right? You're just going to slice it even more. So that's where the Sixers did. They over-tried a little bit. That's where the charges come in. That's where George Hill loses eyesight of the ball and flips it out of bounds. I mean, your top 3 players had 12 or 13 of the turnovers in Tobias, Joel, and Ben. So that they have to get that down. And to Bob's point, they were much better at it this season. There were games where you look down and they only have 8 or 9. You know, sometimes you have double-digit turnovers in the first half. And that can't, you want to be a championship team, that cannot happen.
I feel like there was a good enough sample size, and granted the regular season is not the playoffs, but I thought there was enough evidence during the regular season for now that we can say the Sixers are a team that's had its mettle tested. They finished strong in fourth quarters. They found ways to win games. But this is really the first time that they're going to feel a little bit of pressure. Like this is going to be some pressure. I think it's certainly a manageable situation given the experience and the talent and the coaching they have. But you're at home, you're down 0-1. You certainly don't want to go to Atlanta down 0-2 because then it gets real.
Yeah, and if you really believe that you're an MVP candidate, Joel Embiid, you take over this game. And if you think you're a defensive player of the year, Ben Simmons, well, then you make your mark on that end of the floor with a Trae Young and try to do something there to help the team out. Yeah, this is a good thing for these guys. It's okay. Like, this is where they are in their progression. I really don't count last year's playoff run. So just take it to 2 years prior. Ben Simmons' first playoff run, they win a series, they lose to Boston. His second playoff run together with Joel Embiid, they lose on a quadruple doink to the eventual champions. I don't count last year. Okay, this is your natural next progression. You're expected to win the second round. You lost the first game. You have a little bit of pressure on you. You do have KG veterans around you and guys that have all been through this before, but it falls on your shoulders. So to me, it's good. Have at it. Here you go, Ben and Joel. This is your team. Go get it. Go get it in this adversity that you've created for yourself in game one.
Right. And again, these are the NBA playoffs. Nobody said it was going to be easy. It's not easy. It's hard. And this is, as you say, this is adversity. We go back to the Coach Rivers line from when the playoff seeding was, taking place with the top seed in Brooklyn and whatnot. There are no accidental champions. Is it the easier side of the bracket in that you're not in with Milwaukee and Brooklyn? Probably so, because those were 2 and 3 in terms of the seedings. But guess what? Like I said, Atlanta, they're not looking at the number 4 or 5 next to them or whatever. They're here to win. So this is it. And look, those guys, you don't count last year, but the sour taste lingers and fueled the Tobias Harrises and the Joel. And I know Ben didn't play, but these guys, there's unfinished business here. And this is it. And again, and now you have to play, as you say, with the experience that you've built up. It matters. It's like collective team muscle memory. They've come back to win, and they won 29 home games. They've done it multiple dozens of times, but with 20 road wins and at home floor 29 times, multiple times. You're going to be tested. There are going to be runs. These other guys are really good also. So here it comes. Like you say, you want to have a special season. You got a great group, and they do. And now you got to respond and show the results.
I'm ready. Let's go. Game 2. Let's play it Monday night, 7:30. Who's waiting for Tuesday? Not
play
me.
At noon. Let's go. Let's play
well,
now.
Other than Joel probably needs a couple more hours to recap.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Excellent. Fellas, great to do it in 3 Zoom boxes, even if we couldn't do it in person. Thanks so much.
You're the man, Bri. See you, T-Mac.
All right.